Welcome to Boots on Ground. I am Leroy Carlton, your host, along with my co-host, Johnny Perez.
What's going on, my
Welcome.
brother? How are we doing today?
We doing great, brother. We are doing great.
I'm
It's
I'm
been
in,
an awesome.
I'm in my mobile office right now. By the way, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, that's awesome. Today, the topic that we want to hit on is combat experience and the impact on mental health. What you say about that?
Man, uh, it is definitely one of the toughest subjects to talk about, just because of the impact, and obviously everybody experiences their own emotions and feelings with it all. But it is something that again obviously needs to be spoken about because everybody does handle it different. But heavy, very heavy, very heavy. But I'm looking forward to peeling back the layers on this onion, my man. So definitely dive into it for sure.
I agree. Thinking back on my first deployment, um, I don't know if you know, I was a beach master in the Navy. I don't know if you know what beach masters are,
No, I here's
but
what I do know. I know what CBs are because they build stuff for us, and I
yeah.
know what corpsmen are because they take care of us, and I love those guys. So
Well, we're kind of like the CBs, except we work directly with the Marine Corps.
okay,
So
perfect.
when the Marines are on the boat with us and it's time for them to hit the beach, we are the guys that load up all that stuff on the boats, come out of the ship, and take them to the beach, guide them off the boats, and then the Marines go do what they do. We set up camp on the beach until y'all are ready to come back on the boat. That's why we were called beach masters.
That's what I'm talking about. Listen,
So,
now I know to personally invite you anytime I go to the beach for just simple pleasure. Hey, let's call Leroy up. He knows exactly. He's gonna have the right setup for us. The right setup for us.
but that's what I did. We would
That's
take over the
awesome.
beach for you guys to come on and then go do y'all thing, and then we bring you back to the boat, and y'all go down in y'all marine berthing area and do y'all thing. And see, when y'all came on board, that's where I hung out. I always hung out with the Marines because y'all guys had all kind of stuff. Y'all playing cards, y'all doing everything. Then when it's time to get serious, you
It's
guys are
on.
laser focused.
It's on.
So, but my first deployment was Desert Storm, Desert Shield. And I'm 21, 22 years old, man. About to go in combat.
And real quick with that, Leroy, like with your even with your brain, right? Because that's a lot to carry, And I know a lot of us look forward to going out and serving and making a difference, but even before you left, what's going through your mind during that process? What are you thinking about? What have you thought about? What have you what are some things that you've considered? Worst case, best case scenario, because I think that's an important piece to it all,
Oh,
and a
yeah.
very
You know,
interesting piece.
at that particular time, I'm thinking, wow, out of all the times I decide to join the military,
Conflict, conflict.
yeah, now we got a conflict, but y'all didn't have all of this when I was in high school and when I was in college. I didn't hear anything about a conflict until I joined. That's how I'm thinking.
Right.
And now, I'm married. I'm about to have my first kid,
Man.
and now I'm about to go off into a freaking war that has nothing to do with me. And I'm just all kind of stuff is just going through my head like, okay, what is this going to be like? Am I going to be in the heat or am I be off to the side? I just got all kind of stuff going through my head. Now being in the Navy, it was different when we look at combat because when we hit the coast of Kuwait, the boat stayed off in the middle of the water. So when we got the word that, okay, the commander goes over the intercom and says, okay, look, guys, I'm gonna have the chaplain come on and say a quick prayer. But the Marines are hitting the beach, 600 hours, and we are like maybe a good 50 miles off the coast of Kuwait. Now the entire boat is quiet. You can drop a pin. It is completely
I
quiet.
understand that.
And as the commander's talking, everybody is getting ready. And I'm sitting here like, damn, we're about to go in the thick of this crap. And that's when they were shooting those Scud missiles.
Mm.
Oh my goodness. And as the Marines got all their stuff loaded up, the trucks, everything was on the boats, and we was on those LCUs. And when we got up that morning and we started pulling out from the ship, you could see the fire. You could see the sky lighting up. And I'm sitting here like, damn, dude. I'm sitting here like,
Crazy.
what the hell did I just join? That's all I'm thinking. What the hell did I just get myself into? And it's crazy because the closer we getting, the louder it's getting. And everybody is just laser focused. And I'm just sitting here like, what the hell? And all I say was, when we get back, if we make it back, I'm getting out. That's I'm getting out. I can't do it. Needless to say, I didn't get out. I re-enlisted for 6 years because my first year I did 4. And then I re-enlisted for another 6 years.
Nope.
So, watching the guys, Gunny Sergeant Mitchell, I'll never forget this dude. Gunny Sergeant Mitchell, Gunny Sergeant Smith, Sergeant First Class Williams. All of these guys, man, these dudes wasn't no joke. They were no joke. And the soldiers and the Marine Corps guys that they had under them, they kept them dudes on point, man.
I hear that.
And when we got off when that flap came down and hit that beach, and the beach masters ran out to the beach, and then we do the little thing so the Marines start up their vehicles, and the boys rolled out. Man, I knew right then and there, boy, oh damn, we in some shit. But we never knew what we were actually fighting for. We never knew. We just knew we had to fight.
Right.
Which I thought was crazy. We over here fighting, but we don't know what the hell we fighting for. I guess that was a need to know basis. But
usually how it plays out.
Yeah, I later found out, that we were fighting for oil. We was trying to take over the oil, which I thought was crazy. But it is what it is. My only concern was, okay, that my fellow beach masters and the Marines that we let off on the beach make it back. But it's just so much stuff going through your mind at that time, man. You just I feel like I was in another damn world. I couldn't believe I was in this crap.
It's almost like you're watching a movie, you know what I mean? Just you have to kind of pinch yourself to realize, man, this is happening. Like, this is really happening.
It is crazy. And then to think that after Desert Storm, Desert Shield, I deployed 4 more times after that. And
to think you said you thought you were getting out. What's happening?
Yeah,
Crazy. Crazy.
So going from the Army, going from the Navy to the Army. Now, in the Navy, I'm on a boat. We're kind of away from everything until you guys come back. Then we go back on the boat, and then you hear the whistle. Doo-doo. Movie time, tonight's movie. That's the life we was living.
Right.
Now, when I switched to the Army, dude, I am knee deep in the shit. I'm gun, Well, M16 at the time, full flight jacket, all Kevlar, the works. I'm in the thick of that crap, bullets flying, shit blowing up. And I said, damn, I made the wrong move getting out of the damn Navy. Now I'm really sitting there like, oh my goodness, I done fucked up.
Oh man.
And it's crazy, man, because when I went into the Army, every deployment and every combat situation, I lost a buddy. And it's crazy because you're talking to the person, and then the next thing you know, the person is gone. I don't think people that hasn't been in the military or been in a combat situation will never understand that.
I agree.
And it's crazy. You know, I think I was telling you about Lieutenant Walsh.
Yep.
You know, I still think about that to this day. That if I had to just talk to that dude a little bit longer, he'd have probably still been here. But, you know, God has everything planned out. No matter how long I tried to talk to that dude, he was walking out that door. God has everything planned out. Because he kept saying, all right, I got to go get my laundry. You know, when you come back, please, you know, sit down and show me all this stuff so I know what I'm doing and I can make sure my guys have everything that they need. And I'm like, no problem, sir. Just let me know when you get back. And no sooner than he walked out that door, I never saw that dude again.
Sad, man. Sad.
But the act that he did will never be forgotten because that soldier's still living to this day. And I know that soldier will never forget Lieutenant Welsh. But I mean, young guy, man, first deployment, just got married, just had a kid, and they're gone. And it's crazy. But, you know, what kind of impact does that put on a person's brain, man? You know, when you come back home after something like that, and you sitting down with your family, and you're trying to take all of it in as being back home, you know, what kind of state does that put you in? You know, and only your significant other can really understand all that you're going through because what people fail to realize, your family is going through something as well. You know,
That is a fact. That is a fact.
you know, you're not here. They know where you are. They don't know the extent of what you're going through, but they know where you are. And they sitting here thinking, damn, is he going to make it? You know, is he going to hold up? So on and so forth. You know, what you think about all that?
You know, I'll tell you this too, man. And obviously, even with your experiences, it's like I said, everybody goes through it differently. You know, some people handle it very well, some people not so much. But nonetheless, the how would I say physical footprint that gets stamped into your brain, and it's just something you can't erase it, right? And
Right.
what's crazy to me, even when you're telling that story, is it really changes obviously how you're living your life. I mean, you're sitting by the exit doors. You have to be in a position where your back's faced against the wall, and everyone you can see everyone and everyone going on. I mean, there was a moment in time where like even you're driving down the road and things look a little suspicious. You're like, holy smokes, you got to take it easy. Or I'll tell you one of the things even for me is in public places. Public places, for the longest time, I'm just not I'd rather not go, but here's
I'm the
what I'll tell you
same
that
way.
yep. Right, and I tell you, and even like, I mean, obviously being in the industry that we're in, big events and things like that. And I'll tell you, when you get there, it's better, it feels good, but it's the march to get there. It's the time and effort and energy that is required to get you there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then when you're there, okay, things are starting to settle down and everything's good, but it's that first push. But I'll tell you where it really affects you is the family, especially if you have young kids. If you're not going out like the rest of the families are and having a good time and going to the festivals and talking to people, you spend a lot of time away from all that, and it impacts your significant other, your spouse, your kids, and that's really a sad part about it all.
Yeah.
And even for you, like, because let me ask you this, and then obviously I know I'll go into my mine part of the service as well too, but I am curious, like for you, even
Mm-hmm.
transitioning out, and you really become hardened with it, right? You build a callus in the mind, if you will, and that continues to harden and toughen up, and you bleed again, and then you toughen back up again, and it's just that callus being built over and over again. But when you transition back to the civilian life, what would you say was some of the most significant impacts, or at least some of the things that impacted you the most that you've realized, maybe not at first, maybe later on, but for you personally? So you've experienced all that. Obviously, you dealt with loss, you dealt with traumatic events. What is Leroy Carlton at that point now, being a civilian? Like, did you pop back up right away? Did it take some time? I mean, what were some of the most biggest areas that it impacted you?
I think for me, and I still do this to this day. Like I went to the movies yesterday to see Civil War.
Okay, that looks good. By the way, how was that? Was that good?
It was pretty good.
Okay, good, good,
Um,
good. And then also too, because I want you to add, because this is important, how you're coping with it, because a lot of us
mhm.
talk about the issues, but what can we do to get ourselves through that, right? So, and I don't mean to cut you off, but yeah, so you're at the movie, you're watching Civil War.
Well, see one thing I do, and I still do to this day. Whenever I come into the movie theater, I stop. When you come in the door and you're walking down the aisle to get to the seats, and you see the screen. Well, when I turn
Yep.
and I'm seeing the cheers, first thing I do is look at the entire arena. I'm looking at the people that's sitting near the screen. I'm looking at the people that's in the middle. I'm looking at the entire movie theater. And then I sit all the way to the last row that's up against the wall, and I sit directly in the middle. If I can't get that seat, I'm not watching that movie.
Listen, well, hey, thankfully AMC got you hooked up. You can pick that seat ahead of time. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And see, it's because I want to put myself in the middle of the screen,
yeah,
and I want to be able to see everything in front of me. And I continue to do that to this day. I will not go in the movie theater if I can't sit in that back row and in that middle seat where I can see everything. I can see who coming up. I can see who going down. I can see who getting up. I can see who moving. I can see everything because I'm not going to give you that chance. So that's one thing that hasn't changed about me that I still do to this day. Um, I still don't like to go in a place where there's a whole bunch of people. I just don't. I've never, ever since then, I just, I don't like crowds. Now, being at our events is different because you know who's there.
fact.
But even then, I'm still skeptical about being in crowds.
And it's funny too, because every single time that we've gone to one, and even before we really started talking, I've always sensed that. I mean, you walk, you walk with confidence, and there's that, but there is that element of alertness that you could just feel. I'm like, yeah, this guy's cool, but you can tell he's on the edge a little bit. You know what I mean? Like he's kind of on alert, if you will, or uneasy about it. And then you start talking, and everything's cool, but even still, you've got that element of just. And I definitely do remember that about you. So it's funny that you mentioned that, but it is because it's hard to get there. Hard to get there. Obviously, you know the people, which is great, but it's a lot, man. There's a lot of energy that gets sucked out and depleted from forcing yourself in those situations. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it took me a long time before I would, my wife would say, "Hey, sweetie, let's go out and do something." But you have to have that understanding spouse that understands, okay, what you just been through. So I would talk to a therapist. I still talk to a therapist to this day. Every Tuesday, I talk to a lady by the name of Miss Penny. who is also a combat vet. So she knows because she's been there. But her job was to talk to the soldiers once they came back from, the combat zone. She is to make sure that the soldiers in their right mind. So I talk to her every Tuesday at 1 o'clock. So one, even if you don't think something is wrong with you, you need to talk to somebody because you may be covering up the hidden agenda, because she was one of the people that pointed out this stuff to me. When you go out, what is it that you do? How do you act when you get around a certain amount of people? When I get around a bunch of people, I'm watching everything. And I ain't let too many people get too close to me. So, but that's just from being in that environment. And she say, well, do you interact with people when you out with people? No, I don't. Other than who I'm with, no. Not at all. I ain't inviting no danger. But that's it. That's just how I'm thinking. I'm not inviting no danger. But it's hard to get yourself out of that mode.
Agreed.
And I've been doing this for 30 years. So being deployed 5 times and being in the combat zone, I will not break that. Now, some things, yeah, because I would rather stay in my house in the comfort of my home and around my family than to go out and just have a day out on the town or whatever the case may be. Because if we could do it in here, then hey,
then why not?
Yeah.
For sure. And let me ask you this too, because this is important, right? So coming from a position, so I did one plug, I did one deployment. But compared to yours, 5, and it's always interesting. It's always interests me, especially when I talk with other vets. Because I remember the first deployment, like, and I'll get into my story here shortly, but like, it was exciting, all that good stuff. But then, 3 months into it, you're like, holy smokes, this is taking a long time, and then you can't wait to get home. But would you say it got easier for you as, like, okay, the next deployment, and then your third deployment, your fourth deployment? What was the mindset going through that process?
After my first 2 deployments, each time I went out, I stayed away for a complete year.
That's unreal. Yeah, the Army's pretty notorious for that too. They do like 14-month plugs or something.
A straight year. So the Navy, when I did Desert Storm, did the Shield, it was 9 months. Then when I switched to the Army, each time we went, it was a year. After the first 2, the next 3 just already knew what to expect. I knew how long I was going to be gone. So I would already set my mind to think, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we're facing. Let's just focus in on this. And I would always tell my wife, when you drop me off, just leave. And she like, no, sweetie, I want to watch you get on the bus. I want to watch you pull off. I said, no, sweetie, please, just go. Because I'm already trying to get myself in that mode that once I get on this bus, I already know what time it is. I know where I'm going, and we straight hard from there. And she would always get pissed off, but I'd be like, sweetie, please, just do this for me. Hug, kiss, get in the car and go.
And that's like a pro tip, by the way, like to realize how important that is, because you're not making it a big deal. You're just going to work, right? That's kind of the name of the game there. But if you emphasize, like, hey, I'm not going to see you for a year, like, that changes everything. So that's an important piece, in my opinion, just because you're really, again, shielding the mind, getting the mindset locked in, focused, ready, right? And we can really approach that with anything that we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's huge. And I wish someone would have told me that, because I did make it a big deal with my wife, because I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen because this is my first time, and it's crazy, crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, as much as my wife wanted to fight it, she understood. She understood. So when I tell her to go, I'm not telling you to go because I don't want you there. I want you there. I really don't want to leave you. If it's the way I could have got up out of this, believe me, I'd have thought of it. But
For sure.
you know, I have a job to do. This is what I signed up for because people sign up for the military at the end of the day for the different reasons. Some sign up for college, some sign up to get the bonus or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, we defend the United States. That's what we do. Whether you going to college or you signed up for the college tuition or whatever the case may be, at the end of the day, a gun is getting put in your hand, you're getting suited up, and you're defending the United States.
Fact.
Now, you might not get all the joy when you come back because so many people look at things so differently, but the United States wouldn't be where it is today if it wasn't for the military.
Absolutely.
And yet they try their best not to give us that credit, But when I told her, I just need you to get in the car and go because I see the families break down once we get on the bus. And I didn't want that because I know if you break down, I'm going to break down. And I don't need that.
Hey,
I
listen,
don't need
especially if
that.
you're in a position of leadership too, which makes it even more
Yeah,
challenging.
exactly. Soldiers looking. I don't need that. I just need you to get in car and go. I'll contact you, let you know I made it there safely, but I really need you to go. And she stood there for a minute, like, I'm not going nowhere. I'm going to watch you go. And I said, if you're going to do that, just pull off somewhere where I can't see you. And that's what she did. She
Crazy.
pulled off somewhere until she saw my bus pull off. And then she left.
Yeah.
But I don't want to see you because my mind is I'm about to go over here in an area and you just think, I'm in Baghdad, I'm in Fort Taji or whatever you want to call it. Every day in clockwork at 4:00, like clockwork, we got mortars coming over the fort. Like clockwork, man.
I hear.
Every
Yep.
freaking day because they just want to hit something. They don't care what they're shooting at. They just want to hit something. And I'm sitting here like, are you freaking kidding me, man? I can't even sleep. So,
It is nuts.
yeah, it's crazy. But people don't know half of the stuff we go through over there. And then you wake up every morning like, damn, is this going to be the day? You say your prayers, you pray, so on and so forth, but you wake up every day like, okay, is this going to be the day? And I'm a convoy commander. So I'm out there in them freaking mountains driving in the MRAPs and all that bull crap. Are we going to hit an ID? Is there going to be somebody out there waiting to ambush us? I'm just thinking all kind of crap. But I'm sitting there at the ready because, man, it's an experience I will never forget. I wouldn't trade it, but if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't. But
yeah, I get you, man. I get you.
it really makes you, and people, I think people take life for granted. People really take life for granted. And it really makes
especially
you
today's world. Especially today's world.
Yeah, oh yeah, especially today. Now that movie I told you I went to see, Civil War.
Yep.
It's a pretty much, just to give you the basis of the movie, it's pretty much what is going on today. The United States is divided. We got an idiot trying to get in the office and destroy everything and become a dictator. Well, the president in that movie was a dictator, and the United States was divided. But the military decided, okay, we're not listening to this dude no more. We gonna take over. We gonna go kill this dude, and we
Crazy.
gonna get stuff back to the way it should be. So as I'm watching that movie, I'm thinking that's Trump, and we got all the idiots that stormed the Capitol are the ones that's walking around with the guns, just killing people. And I know you saw the previews where the dude was standing there with the M16, and he's sitting there saying, "What kind of American are you?"
Yeah. I remember seeing that. I remember seeing that.
Yeah. Well, when it got to that part, they had just dumped a whole bunch of people in the hole. Like they killed all these people. And the question he asked one of them was like, "Where are you from?" And the lady said, "I'm from Colorado." He said, "Now see now that's America right there. That's America." He said, "You're okay." And when he asked the other dude where he was from, he said, I'm from Utah." He said, "See, that's America right there." He said, "A lot of people live in Utah, but that's America." And when he asked the other dude where he was from, and he was an Asian guy, and the Asian guy started crying because he knew what was about to happen. "Where are you from? You can't talk?" And he didn't want to answer because he knew once he answered, a boy was gonna take him out. So, I
So
don't
good
want to
movie.
spoil the
Good
movie
movie
for
overall.
you, but
Yeah.
it was a
Don't
good
spoil it
movie.
because I definitely want to check it
Yeah, I ain't
out
gonna
for
spoil
sure.
it for you, but it was a good movie. But it make you think, and it make you look
Yeah.
at the crap that's going on today. And I'm sitting here like, damn. And I'm like, they tore DC up though. Washington DC was a mess. It's
Crazy.
amazing how those studios could set that stuff up to make it look so real.
Listen, hey,
It's
what's funny too?
crazy.
They got a movie coming out too with the whole fake moon landing, and there's a lot going on, man. It's causing a lot of confusion for a lot of people. But I think at the end of the day, that's why it's so important to having those core values and really honoring the type of person, and we're taking character and integrity and all of that for granted, and we're not really putting, and even and I'll be honest with you, and this is going a little off topic, and we'll kind of wrap it back in here, but
Mm-hmm.
the masculinity of men is they're trying to take that away, and that's a
Yeah.
whole other subject
Whew.
that can be talked about, and that's why, like,
That's another
I
issue.
don't, yeah, a huge issue, and it's just like, listen, here's reality. You can believe whatever you want, and even you and me, Lear, there's some stuff that we'll disagree with, but that's the whole beauty of it, right? You can
Yeah.
disagree, you can believe in something completely different than what I believe in, and politics aside, that's all right. That's what makes this whole situation beautiful. But the problem is, everyone's putting so much attention on, well, if you're different, we can't get along. If you're different, we can't we can't. So again, and here's what's crazy, because coming back to how combat has impacted just the mindset and how it affects with PTSD and all of these different elements. Here's the hard part. The hard part is going overseas, serving your country, making the sacrifice that you feel was for the good of America, and coming back home, and it's gotten progressively worse since then. And then now we're like, now what? What was that for? What was the reason? And it's just, there's so much that wraps into it. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's
I agree. I
frustrating,
agree.
and it angers me, but at the same time, we can only control the controllables, right? Because you could sit there and think about, and that's another thing. If you sit there and you're in your thoughts for too long, that's like a disease. It's like a cancer. You'll just eat yourself away, little by little by little, and then you become a completely different person. You don't recognize that person anymore, and you get up one morning and you look at yourself in the mirror, and you're just like, what the hell happened? Who am I? Right?
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
So,
And you know
so
what's so sad about that when you think about, and like I said, when I go to VA, I always talk to the Vietnam War vets and the 2 World War II vets. That I do Tai Chi with these people every
Right.
weekend. So I listen to them and I listen to their stories. I don't say much. I just listen because I'm the youngest person in the room. So listening to the sisters and the brothers that was in the Vietnam War, you're over there fighting for your country, and then you come back home, and now you're fighting against racism in your own country, which I just think was crazy. But I was little at the time, so I wouldn't understand all of that because I never had the impact of having to deal with racism. Now, the little incident that I did have, I thought it was funny. I'm in college, I'm coming down the street. There's a white lady coming towards me with a little dog. She stops, she picks up her dog, and she stands in the street until I walk by. When I walk by, she picks a dog back up, comes back onto the pavement, and continue walking. Now I'm looking back and I'm cracking up because I'm thinking, man, what if when she went in the street like the cartoons, you looking both ways, you don't see nothing. As soon as you step in the street,
Boom.
that's, that's how I'm thinking. I was like, damn, that was stupid. Why would you do that? But that's the extent of what I had as far as racism, because my mom was never a big person as far as racism is concerned. She would always say, you treat a person how you want to be treated. And if they treat you like shit, you leave them alone.
Hey,
So that's
that's
how I've
great
always
advice.
been. Yeah.
Great
That's how I've
advice.
always been. And you have people like that in the military, just hide behind a rank. I'm this, I'm that, you're going to do this, so on and so forth, and make you hate them. And then one of them people, when you get over there, you want to pop them, but you can't do that, But when you think about how people today just take life for granted, and they just really take it for granted, they don't realize the sacrifices that were made throughout the years for you to have those freedoms.
Right.
I used to always think it was stupid that we have gay people fighting for gay rights. I thought it was dumb because as a person, you already have rights. So why do you need to have your rights to say gay rights? I never understood that. You as a person have rights. You don't need your rights to say gay rights. If you gay, that's your preference, but you have rights as a person. So what are you actually fighting for? You have rights. I never understood that. That always blew my mind. Your sexual preference has nothing to do with your rights. If you're gay, you're gay.
Right.
If you're lesbian, you're lesbian. But as a person, you have rights. So what are you fighting for? Half of the people don't take the time to even think about that. They just don't. So if I'm over here, and think about this, back in the day, the president used to go fight with the troops. Back in the day, the president don't fight no more. But just think about this. If you want to stop all these conflicts and you want to stop all this confusion and everything that's going on in the world, suit up. The Senate, the congressman, the House of Reps, the vice president, and the president and their staff. Suit them up. Jackets, Kevlars, boots, the whole nine. Everything that we wear. And give them a weapon. And ship them right over there with us. I guarantee you.
And we'd be the most peaceful country in the world, man.
The United States will be on point. You can believe that. Because think about this. What is the one country we never hear anything about? Think about that.
Listen, obviously we ain't hearing about it because I'm not sure.
They right over top of us. Canada.
Okay, got you. Yeah, got you. Okay.
We never hear anything about Canada because they mind their business. It's all about Canada. Now, I'm sure, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure they got stuff going on in Canada that we don't know about, but we don't know about it because they mind their business. You think about every conflict that we've ever been in had nothing to do with the United States. Think about that.
Okay.
Only thing I would say the Pearl Harbor attack, we had to let them know something.
Right.
World Towers, we had to let them know something. You just ain't going to come over here thinking you're going to bully us. But every conflict we've been in had nothing to do with us. Nothing. Like this mess right now with Israel and Russia and what's the name? We got our hands all in it. I get it. But when is the United States going to realize we're the greatest country on this planet? We need to take care of the people here. When are they going to realize that? When are you going to realize we need to take care of our military? Because every time you turn around, you're trying to cut something from the military. But we made it so you're able to run for a political position. We did that. So you're able to run for the Senate. So you're able to run to become a president. We did that. Where a kid can say, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be the president of the United States. We did that. And the Marines are always the first ones to go into battle. Then everybody after. So if you really want to get technical, you guys did this.
It's crazy too, man. You obviously, I know you brought up the Twin Towers, and just kind of circling back on the impact. So dude, get this, man. It's funny, different times, right? There's an era where people were drafted. There's an era where people went in for college or whatever the case may be, the benefits. Dude, I remember I was sixth grade. I was in Mrs. Fox's class. She was an English teacher, and even before I got there that morning, the Twin Towers got hit. One of the towers got hit, and we were kind of. I didn't know what was going on, man. I think I was 11 years old. I was like, holy smokes, like this is crazy. They weren't really talking about the terrorist attack at the moment, but then we had to go to school. So my mom dropped us off at school. Long story short, we're in her class, and every other class after that, we had the TV on. I mean, school stopped. It stopped. But she turned on the TV. We were watching what was happening with Twin Towers, and as they fell, I remember they were talking about how, first of all, I saw the panic and the chaos. And again, I'm 11. I'm like, holy smokes, I don't even know what I was thinking at the point. But I remember them saying through the news, we believe this is a terrorist attack. And at that very moment, I knew, I was like, okay, I want to do something. I need to do something. I don't know what it was, right? I know before that, prior to that, and I knew he was going to bring the Marines, right? But I remember seeing a commercial of the Marines slaying the dragon. I think I was like 7 or 8 years old. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's awesome. I was in the young Marines and did all that. But at that very moment, I knew that I needed to serve I needed to do something. And then obviously as I got older, I got a girlfriend and all that things. I had a baby, things changed. I was like, yeah, maybe I'm not going to go. And if I go, maybe I'll join the Air Force. Come to find out my ASVAB score, I didn't pass to get into the Air Force. So the Marines welcomed me with open arms. I was like, man, this is where I belong. And I'll tell you, they do a really good job, getting you psyched up to go. And that's all we wanted to do. We couldn't wait to go. We prayed to go. Like, let's go. and then you get out there and you're fired up. Your things are happening, and you mentioned the IDF earlier, and I'll tell you, man, I don't know what it is, but apparently everyone, when we went out to Afghanistan, we were in the Helmand province, but apparently they operate on very timely. They're very consistent with their,
Yeah.
but at night, in the morning, but that was at first it was kind of exciting. I'm not gonna lie. Like it hit, and you're like, oh man, like we're in it now. Like this is what we signed up for. But then they do it again and again and again and again, and it gets closer, and people are now there's now consequences to what's happening, and you're hearing about all the nonsense that's going on, and then you get tired of it, and then you get angry, and then you lose that human connection, and you view them as, again, not humans anymore, because now you have to kind of reprioritize, right, and not have any more or any emotions attached to it. And the hard part is because where we were at, we were working with the ANA, the Afghan National Army. They were embedded with us.
Yeah.
And some of these guys are stand-up dudes. I mean, legit good guys. But you're trying to separate the two, because then you hear stories about, and that's unfortunately very sad. But my lieutenant colonel, he was our CO at the time. He was killed by an imposter, but it was an Afghan national police officer. Him and I think it was 3 others that ended up getting killed. But long story short, you go there, and the IEDs, that was another thing. And then, I mean, I'd lost track of how many trucks of ours got hit. But it doesn't. I don't want to say it gets easier, because it doesn't get easier, but you do become numb.
Mm-hmm.
But you have that heavy burden of like is it me today? And then the even harder burden to carry is, why wasn't it me? Why am I picked? Why did I get so lucky, right? And that's really what carries, right? And then you come back and you see the way the world is. And what's crazy is I deployed in 2010, February 2010, and we were out there for about 6.5, I think almost 7 months, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just you're happy when you come back, and you have that honeymoon stage, if you will. But then things start to settle in a little bit more, and you're thinking different, you're acting different, and the people that notice it very quickly, obviously, is your spouse, right? Your wife, your husband,
Mm-hmm.
whoever is, and then your
Mm-hmm.
kids start asking questions, and then you start to realize you're not really interacting with anybody anymore. And again, while you're out there, you're going through it, and you're doing your job and having a good time, and you see visual things that any normal human being wouldn't want to see or care to see, but you see them. And because for that long period of time, that's why, like, with the Army going for a year, man, mad respect, my hats off to that, because a year's long. And I know they do that 2 weeks of R&R, but it's not enough, man. It's
That
too
means
long.
nothing. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I
means
know,
nothing.
man. And especially if you're a boot, you're going to get your R&R the first month or 2 of your deployment,
Yep.
and then you have to sit there the
Exactly.
rest of the time. But the challenge becomes, because you become so emotionally detached from everything, because you were woken up by heavy explosions, right? And because you were driving, and every time you leave the wire, it could be anywhere, anything
Mm-hmm.
can happen. And because you've got that high, I guess that dopamine, if you will, and that adrenaline that's just constantly running. I mean, that does chemical crap to your brain. And you come back and you try to fit in, right? But now work sucks. Your bosses don't appreciate you, right? You don't feel like I mean, think about this for a second. You go out, you're serving your country, you're making a difference. You come back, you leave. And that's why I understand now. I had a lot of our senior enlisted Marines, one in specific, who, great guy, great leader. He's like, hey, Perez, it's hard out there, man. It's hard out there. And that's why I said we have to do a better job connecting the dots with the transition. And listen, there's been a lot of guys with way more combat experience, way more suffering, way more. I mean, I'm just telling what I'm feeling. You're saying what you're communicating, but everything changes. everything changes, and you have to go
It does.
misunderstood for a while. And that's why it is so important, because here's another hard part that you have to deal with. You serve in combat with some of your best friends that would have never. One of my best friends was a white guy from Wisconsin. I mean, think about that for a second. I would have never met a white guy from Wisconsin. Let's be real. I'm from San Bernardino, California. I'm
Mine
Hispanic.
was a guy named Kentuck.
That's
Well,
right.
I called him Kentuck because he was from Kentucky.
Right.
But that dude
Dude,
was cool as all outdoors.
fact. And that's what I'm saying. And then when it's done, you get your, little DD-214, you're out the door, and you're happy for about 6 months, man. For 6 months, you're living the dream, and then things start to settle in, and you start realizing your friends aren't around anymore, and they're not calling as often. You're not calling as often. Everybody's busy with their life, and obviously social media is great for keeping the connections, but it blows my mind every time I have conversations with my friend, or when I go to see them. It's like once
Mhm.
every 7 years, and I'm like, dude, we were kids when we met, and now we're middle-aged men. So it's just here's what I'll say. What I will say is I'm a big advocate. I'm a big advocate for, number one, getting the help that you need, and even if you don't feel like you need it, communicate something, talk to somebody, stay in connection with something. That's number one. Number two, um, you know, not I don't want to say take a break. That's not what I say, because you obviously got to decompress from it all, but don't disassociate yourself from everybody. Like, get into positions, maintain that grind, that hustle, if you will, that act of service in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's giving back to the community, or you're in a line of work where you can feel like you can make a difference, right? Try not to go too long without doing that, because I feel like you lose a sense of purpose there. And really, number three, this is what I believe, and then I'll hand it back over. But the Marines, they're always finding the mistakes. Work on this. Everything's got to be perfect, right? Hope for the best, expect the worst. Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, Plan D. It's always everything. It's always mistakes to be made, and
Mhm.
whatever, right? And obviously that's all predicated based on the leadership that you have. But that's, give or take, that's kind of what it is, right? And even I remember hearing a drill instructor way back when, he was a new drill instructor, but they were saying, hey, you always got to find something wrong. You always got to, and I'm like, shit, like that's kind of what a weird way to do things, but I guess so, right? But
Mhm.
but more importantly, if I had to say any message or get any message out to anybody listening, especially veterans, is remember your worth. Remember what you were able to do. And even more importantly, even if it wasn't a great career, right? We're not all going in there and having stellar careers. Not all of us, right? There's a lot
That's
of us
true.
that have subpar careers that maybe, once or twice was called a shitbag. Who knows, man? You can go all sorts of, but what I will say is, number one, know your worth, know who you are. Number two, it's okay to realize that you don't need anybody to tell you that you're good or you're not good. You just need to believe in yourself that, hey, I'm just going to take it one day at a time, one step at a
Right.
time, and make it happen. So that's yeah, because it impacts it all, man. The decisions you make, the things you think about, the sleep, you know, all of it, all of it.
I
You come
agree.
back different.
I agree. And that's why I love when Nikki came up with that idea of making a transition house. You know, I think that would be great for the military. If you have people that's about to get out, you know, give them orders to the transition house. Let them stay at the transition house for about a month, or whatever the case may be. This will be their place of work from here on out until they get out, because now they're getting acclimated back into the civilian life. Giving them stuff, we're showing them how to, get back in whatever it is that they're trying to do. So I think, Nikki, that was a great idea that you even brung that up. You know, for me, I take everything as it comes. I'm not a person that's going to get excited. I will sit back and watch, and I will observe. I won't say much. I'll just sit back and watch. I'll speak when I need to speak. And that's just me. I'm just mild mannered across the board,
Right.
you know. But when a situation arises, just know I got your back. I'm not going nowhere. We're going to handle this and do whatever it is that we need to do, you know. So, one thing I always stress to people, you have to get help. For me, Wounded Warrior was awesome because that's how I learned to play golf. Went to Wounded Warrior, and they had some PGA guys come and talk to wounded veterans and disabled veterans, you know, and then they teaching you how to play golf. They're showing you how to putt, they're showing you how to drive, they're showing you how to read the greens, all this stuff. But they're doing stuff for the troops to keep them looking forward to something,
Right.
you know, because like you said, you don't want to come home and just be stagnant and you just sitting in the house. You don't want to go nowhere. You just cutting yourself from everything that's outside of your home. And you don't want to do that. So I stress, you know, Nikki say racquetball is her relief. That's awesome. For
Yeah.
me, for me, it's my PS5. You know, I love role playing games. Like if you ever heard of Diablo 3 or
Oh
Diablo
yeah.
4, yeah, I love that game. So I'll play that. You know, that's my way of letting stress off. I'll play that. You know, but I have a lot of partners that play what's the war games? Uh
We got Call of Duty. I mean, we
well,
got Medal of Honor. We got
there you go. They play
freaking
those
yeah,
games
all those.
faithfully. I mean, they will play them games. They got teams and everything, and they talking about the guns they done picked up and this and that. Come on, see, get in it, man. Get in it with us. Nah, man, y'all can have that shit. Nah. And you
I
know,
got you.
and only one of the guys knew that I was actually in the military. And so he would always say, "Oh no, man, C was in the military. He ain't messing with this."
Hey, listen. Here's what I'll tell you. If you have never been in the military, the closest thing to getting PTSD is some of those chats, those group chats in the video games. They talking all sorts of gnarly stuff. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, first of all, that's the most violent thing I've ever heard. It's crazy.
Yeah,
It ends up coming from a 9-year-old kid or something like that. But here's what I'll say too, man. Is and obviously the suggestions were great. Even having a mind coach, because that's such an important piece, and that's why I love when I see veterans that are getting out and they're honing in on that, they're locking in on that, and they're spreading their word. And is there a lot of yeah, there is. That's the power of the resources that we have, and just being themselves and helping others to the best of their ability. So, but yeah, man, and I'll say this too. Social media, there is a lot of benefits to that, but it has made things a lot more difficult as well too, because I feel like some people are living unauthentically because we're not them. We're not whatever. Oh, everything's great and happy go lucky. No, that's bullshit, man. It's not. It's hard. It's hard
it
out
is.
there, and you just got to lock in and bunker in and connect with the right people. Work on the mind. The mind. The mind. The mind. The mind is everything. Like it
I
starts
agree.
here. It starts here.
I agree. I agree.
So
You know, you will never forget those experiences. And like I said, I wouldn't change anything that happened to me in the military because everything that happened was supposed to happen,
fact.
you
Fact.
know, and it molded me to the man that I am today.
Agreed.
You know, I just told my kids, I don't want you to go in the military because make that a last resort. I said there's a lot of things out here that you could do besides going into the military. At the time, the military was what I needed because it was my way out of Baltimore. And Baltimore is horrible. It's still horrible to this day.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know
was
how
gonna
my
say.
brothers, yeah, I don't know how my
I was gonna
brothers
say
are
not
still
much
living
change.
there. Yeah.
Not much
I
change, man.
just I don't understand why they still live there. You know, but they don't want to leave Baltimore, and I get it. I get it. You know, that's where we grew up. That's home. You love it, but I needed something different. You know, so this was a great show, man. This was a great show.
Yeah,
But
I'm hoping for definitely for the next one. I'll be in my office, but the mobile office here. But it's good. I got the AC on. We're
there
Arizona's
you
getting a
go.
little
There
warm
you
out
go.
here.
Well,
But
you
yes,
know,
till next time.
those of you that watched, you know, thank you so much for getting on. Tell other military members about this, you know, because we would love to hear their input. The next show we're going to talk about, let's see what's going to be the next topic. The next topic is going to be post-traumatic growth. So think about that one. Think about that one.
Ooh, that one's a good one, man. That's a solid
Yeah.
one.
So
And
post-traumatic.
that one's result driven, baby. That's
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
getting out of it stage. That's gonna be a solid one.
So again, I am your host, Leroy Carlton, with my co-host, Johnny Perez. Thank you so much for joining, and we hope to see you on the next show. Until then, take care and see you during the next show.